Arania stood near the edge of the forest, her eyes fixed on the human village across the river. She wore shining silver armor, smooth and strong, made by the best smiths of her people. Her long blonde hair flowed over her shoulders, catching the breeze. Beside her stood Thaler, a tall elf warrior with dark brown hair and the same silver armor. His expression was serious, watching her closely. "We should go back," Thaler said. "You've seen enough." Arania shook her head. No, not yet. For weeks, she had been coming to this place, watching the humans from a distance. She didn't know why, not at first. They were loud, clumsy, and always busy. But one of them had caught her attention, one who moved with kindness in a world full of noise. "It's the same human again, isn't it?" Thaler asked, already knowing the answer. Arania didn't reply. She just kept her eyes on the man in the village. He worked as a blacksmith, strong arms lifting metal, shaping weapons and tools with skill and care. But it wasn't just the work. It was the way he smiled when children passed by. The way he stopped to help an old woman carry her basket. The way he looked at the sky, like he was waiting for something more. His name was Corwin. A month ago, Arania had seen him during a patrol. A group of human hunters had crossed into Elven territory by mistake. Most elves would have chased them off, or worse. But Corwin had done something different. When one of the hunters tripped and fell into a trap, he had helped free him. Even though he was afraid. Even though he knew he could be punished. That small act had stayed in her mind. "He's not like the others," Arania said softly. Thaler crossed his arms. "He's still human. And you are the elf princess. You're meant to marry Prince Inar from the Silverwood court. You know this." Arania turned to him, her eyes fierce. "I know what I'm meant to do, but I also know what I feel." She had never questioned her path before. She had trained in swordsmanship, learned history and magic, followed every rule of her royal house. But now, every step forward felt heavy, except when she looked toward that village. "You're risking everything," Thaler warned. "Your title, your power, your place among us." Arania looked back toward Corwin. He wiped his forehead with the back of his hand and laughed at something a child said. "Maybe it's worth the risk," she whispered. Thaler sighed, but he said no more. He knew her well. Once she set her heart on something, nothing could move her. Not even the weight of a kingdom. The wind blew through the trees. The world felt quiet, as if waiting. And Arania, the elf princess of Eldenwood, stepped 1 foot closer to the human world, toward a choice that would change everything. Arania waited until nightfall before she stepped out of the trees. The village was quiet now. Most people were inside their homes. Fires burned softly in the windows. She moved like a shadow, quiet and fast, keeping her cloak close. Her silver armor was hidden beneath it. Her heart beat quickly, but her steps did not slow. She had to see him up close. Corwin was still at the forge, working late. The soft orange glow lit his face as he hammered a blade, sparks flying with each strike. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, and sweat dripped from his forehead. He looked tired, but peaceful. Arania stood just beyond the light, hidden behind a wooden cart. She watched in silence, studying every movement. She had seen hundreds of elves train with swords and magic, but watching Corwin shape metal with his bare hands was different. There was strength in it, but also care. Like he wasn't just making weapons, he was building something that mattered. A small voice suddenly called out, "Corwin, you're still working." A little girl ran up to him. Corwin stopped and smiled. He crouched down and gave her a small horseshoe. "For your pony," he said, "like I promised." The girl hugged him. "Thank you." Arania felt something strange in her chest. Not fear, not worry. Something warm, something that pulled her closer. But then, the girl pointed toward the cart. "Who's that?" Corwin stood up fast, turning toward the shadows. Arania froze. It was too late to run. "Hello," Corwin said, stepping forward. He grabbed a small hammer, not a weapon, but something just in case. Arania slowly stepped into the light, her hood still up. She kept her hands open, showing she meant no harm. Corwin looked at her, surprised but not angry. "Are you lost?" Arania hesitated. This was it. She had dreamed of this moment, planned it in her mind, but now that she was here, she didn't know what to say. "No," she said quietly. "I came to see you." He blinked. "Me?" She nodded. "You helped someone. Near the border. A child." Realization slowly crossed his face. "That was you. Watching?" "Yes," she said. "I'm from the forest." He looked at her cloak, then at the way she stood, tall, graceful, alert. He didn't say the word, but she knew he had guessed. Elf. Corwin didn't run. He didn't shout. Instead, he looked at her the same way he looked at the blade in his forge. Carefully. Curiously. "Why?" he asked. "Why come here?" Arania took a breath. "Because you did something kind, and it changed me." For a moment, there was only the sound of the forge fire. Then Corwin smiled, just a little. "Well, I guess kindness still matters." Arania felt her heart lighten. And for the first time, she knew she had made the right choice. Arania returned to the village the next night. This time, Corwin was waiting. He had cleaned the forge and placed 2 wooden stools nearby. He looked nervous, brushing his hands on his trousers as she stepped into the firelight. She wore the same cloak, but her hood was down now. Her blonde hair caught the glow of the flames, and her eyes were steady. "I didn't think you'd come back," Corwin said. "I wasn't sure I would," she replied honestly. "But I wanted to." They sat, facing each other, for a while. They didn't speak. The quiet wasn't awkward. It was careful, like both were trying to understand something new. "So, you're really one of them?" he asked. "An elf," she nodded. "A princess." "Actually." Corwin let out a breath. "That explains the armor. And how you move like you don't even touch the ground." Arania smiled. "We're trained that way." He looked at her closely. "And you came here?" "For me." She nodded again. "You were different. You didn't act with fear. You acted with kindness. Not many would help someone from my kind, especially during a border conflict." Corwin picked up a piece of metal, just to have something in his hands. It didn't feel right to leave that child in pain. Doesn't matter what race someone is. Pain is pain. Arania watched him. She had lived among elves her whole life. Many were wise. Many were strong. But not many were like this. "You risked a lot," she said. "So did you," he replied. "Elves don't usually visit villages like mine. If they knew I was here, I'd be punished," she admitted. "But I wanted to understand. And now that you do." Arania didn't answer right away. She looked up at the stars. They looked different from this side of the trees. Closer. Warmer. "I don't know," she said. "But I want to come back. If that's all right." Corwin gave a slow nod. "It's all right with me." They sat together a little longer. The fire crackled, and the sounds of the quiet village wrapped around them. It was a strange moment. An elf princess and a human blacksmith, but it didn't feel wrong. When Arania stood to leave, Corwin stood too. "Be careful going back," he said. "I always am," she replied with a soft smile. "But thank you." As she walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the trees, Corwin stayed by the fire. He didn't know what this was, or what it might become, but something inside him had changed. The world felt a little less apart, a little less divided. And for the first time in a long while, both of them felt like something good had just begun. Arania knew she couldn't hide her visits forever. News traveled fast, even between forests and villages. One evening, as she returned from the village, she saw 2 elven guards waiting at the edge of the trees. Their faces were stern, their eyes cold. "Princess," the taller one said, "your father demands to speak with you immediately." Arania's heart tightened. She nodded and followed them in silence. They traveled quickly through the forest, the moonlight barely lighting their path. When they reached the palace, the great silver doors opened, and Arenya stepped inside. The halls were filled with quiet whispers from servants and nobles alike. Everyone knew something was wrong. Her father, King Elendor, waited in the throne room. His silver armor gleamed even in the dim light, and his dark eyes looked sharp. "You have betrayed us," he said without greeting. "You have crossed into the human lands. You have endangered our people." Arenya met his gaze. "I did not mean to betray anyone. I only wanted to see them, to understand." "Understand." The king's voice grew louder. "They are not like us. They are dangerous. You are to marry Prince Anar from the Silverwood Court to strengthen our alliances. You are to obey." "I will not marry him," Arenya said quietly but firmly. "Not when my heart is somewhere else." Elendor's face hardened. "You are the elf princess. You do not choose who you love. Your duty is to the kingdom." "But what if the kingdom's duty does not make me happy?" she asked. The room fell silent. The king's anger was strong, but so was her will. "This will not be tolerated," he said at last. "You will end your visits. You will forget this human, or you will face exile." Arenya swallowed hard. Exile was worse than death for an elf. It meant leaving everything she had ever known. Her family, her people, her magic. But in her heart, she had already made her choice. She bowed her head. "I will obey." But as she left the throne room, she knew those words were not true. Outside, Thaler waited for her. He had been watching all along. "You can't hide from your father," he said softly. "But I will stand with you." Arenya looked at him, surprised. "You will?" "I am your friend," Thaler said. "And if you choose this path, you will need allies." For the first time, Arenya felt less alone. The next day, she returned to the village. She told Corwin what had happened. His face grew serious. "Your father is strong," he said, "and dangerous." "But I will not stop," she said. "I want to live my own life." Corwin reached out, taking her hand. "Then we will face it together." Arenya felt hope loom inside her. She had left the forest to find something new. And now, even with danger around her, she was ready. Because sometimes, following your heart means facing the hardest battles. Arenya's decision to keep seeing Corwin was dangerous, but she couldn't stop. Each night, she slipped away from the palace to meet him in the village. They talked for hours, learning about each other's worlds. One evening, Corwin showed her the blacksmith's workshop. He explained how he shaped metal into tools and weapons. She watched closely, fascinated by his skill and patience. "Your hands are strong," Arenya said, "but they also create, not just destroy." Corwin smiled. "That's what I hope for, to build things that help people." Arenya nodded. "That's very different from the elves. We often think only of power and magic." Corwin looked at her. "Maybe that's why we can learn from each other." They laughed softly, feeling the warmth between them. But danger was never far. One night, as Arenya returned to the forest alone, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see two royal guards. "Princess," one said, "you are coming with us." Her heart pounded. She tried to explain, but they would not listen. Just as they moved to take her, Corwin appeared from the shadows. "Let her go," he said firmly. The guards hesitated, surprised by the human's boldness. "This is not your fight," one guard said. "Step back." Corwin didn't move. "It is my fight now." Arenya stepped forward. "I will go with you," she said, "but I will not stop seeing Corwin." The guards looked at each other, then nodded. They would report this to the king, but for now, they left her free. Corwin reached for her hand. "You are brave," he said quietly. "I have to be," she replied. Days passed, and the pressure grew. The king sent more guards to watch her. The palace felt like a cage. One night, Thaler came to her secretly. "There is a way out," he said, "but it is risky." Erinya looked at him, hope shining in her eyes. "We can leave the kingdom," Thaler explained. "You and Corwin. Far away, where no one will find you." "And lose everything?" she asked. "Or gain everything," Thaler said. Erinya thought of Corwin's smile, the life she dreamed of, free from rules and fear. "I will do it," she said, "but I need Corwin to agree." They made plans in secret. The night of their escape was close. As she prepared, Erinya felt fear and hope mix inside her. She was leaving a kingdom and family she loved, but she was choosing her own path. And for the first time, she felt truly free. The night was dark and quiet when Erinya met Corwin near the village edge. She wore her silver armor under a thick cloak, ready for the journey ahead. Corwin carried only what he could hold, a small bag with tools and a few supplies. "Are you sure about this?" Corwin asked, looking into her eyes. "I am," Erinya said. "I cannot live in the palace anymore. My father's orders, the guards, they would never let me be free." Corwin nodded. "Then we leave tonight." They moved quickly through the trees, away from the village and the watchful eyes of the kingdom. Thaler waited further ahead, ready to guide them through the forest paths only an elf could know. The journey was not easy. The forest was thick and dark. Strange sounds echoed around them, making every step feel uncertain. Erinya's heart raced, but she did not stop. She held Corwin's hand tightly. "Do you miss your home?" Corwin asked softly. Erinya thought for a moment. "Yes, but this is my home now, where I can choose." Corwin smiled. "We will make a new home together." Hours passed as they traveled, stopping only to rest in hidden clearings. Thaler stayed close, keeping watch for any danger. But the farther they went, the safer they felt. At dawn, they'd reached the edge of the forest and looked out over a wide open valley. The sun rose slowly, painting the sky with pink and gold. "This is where we start," Erinya said, "a place without crowns or orders." Corwin helped her down the hill, and they sat on a rock, watching the light grow stronger. "Do you think your father will come after us?" Corwin asked. "Maybe," Erinya answered. "But I am ready to face that." Corwin squeezed her hand. "I will protect you." They stayed there for a moment, silent but connected. Erinya felt a peace she had never known in the palace. "We should build a home," she said. "A real home, where we can live freely." Corwin nodded. "I know a place nearby, a small village where people live simply. We can start there." Erinya smiled. "Then let's go." They continued down the valley, walking side by side into the unknown future. As they moved forward, Erinya felt the weight of her past lifting. The forest behind her was no longer a prison, but a place she had left to find love and freedom. And Corwin's hand in hers was the promise of a new life, one they would build together, far from the rules and fears of the Elven kingdom. The village was small and quiet. Stone houses stood close together, with gardens and wooden fences. Chickens walked freely, and smoke rose gently from chimneys. The people were simple folk, farmers, weavers, and traders. They looked at Corwin and Erinya with curious eyes, but no one asked questions. Corwin spoke to the village elder, an old woman with kind eyes and a voice like soft wind. "We are looking for a place to stay," he said. "We can work, help, and live quietly." The elder studied them. She saw the strength in Corwin and the quiet grace in Erinya. She knew they were not ordinary travelers, but she didn't press. "There's an old house near the river," she said. "It needs fixing, but it's yours if you want it." Corwin bowed his head. "Thank you. We'll take care of it." Erinya smiled. "We're grateful." They walked to the little house. It was made of wood and stone, with a broken door and a roof that needed repair. But it stood near the river, where the water ran clear and birds sang in the trees. "It's perfect," Erinya said. Corwin laughed. "It's falling apart." "But we will fix it," she replied. They worked for days. Corwin repaired the roof while Irenia cleaned and gathered supplies. The villagers watched from a distance, surprised by how much the two worked without complaint. Soon, a few neighbors came to help. A young boy brought nails. A woman brought blankets. Even the elder returned with warm bread. "You are welcome here," she told them. Irenia felt her heart warm. This place was different. There were no guards, no rules, no cold halls. Just people helping each other. At night, she and Corwin sat by a small fire inside the house. The walls were still bare, but it already felt like home. "Do you miss the forest?" Corwin asked. Irenia thought for a moment. "I miss my mother, and I miss Thiller, but not the palace. Not the cold silence. Here, I feel alive." Corwin reached out and touched her hand. "We'll make a good life, no matter what comes." Irenia leaned her head on his shoulder. "I believe you." But even in peace, they knew the past could still find them. One evening, while they gathered water from the river, Irenia noticed a symbol carved into a tree. It was small, an elven mark used by scouts. Her breath caught. Someone had been watching. She said nothing to Corwin that night, but her eyes stayed on the shadows longer. Her hands never strayed far from her sword. She had chosen this life. She had found love and peace. But the kingdom she left behind was not done with her yet. Irenia could not sleep that night. She lay beside Corwin, listening to the soft sound of the river outside and the wind touching the trees. Her hand rested near her sword. Her eyes stayed open. The elven mark on the tree meant someone had found them. Maybe a scout. Maybe more. When the sun rose, she quietly slipped outside. Corwin followed her a moment later. "Something's wrong," he said. She nodded. Someone was here. Someone from the kingdom. Corwin frowned. "Do you think they're coming for you?" "Yes," she said. "And for you too." Corwin looked toward the village. "These people helped us. They don't deserve danger." Irenia stepped closer. "Then we need to protect them. We prepare. We don't run." Later that day, she and Corwin gathered the villagers. They explained everything, who she really was, what she had left behind, and what danger might be coming. Some were afraid, others surprised. But the elder stood up and spoke first. "We took you in. We won't turn our backs now." One by one, the others nodded. They didn't have swords, but they had tools, strong arms, and brave hearts. Irenia gave them tasks. Watch the forest line. Send word if strangers were seen. Stay close to home at night. She and Corwin would stand at the edge of the village each night to keep watch. On the third night, they saw movement. 3 figures stepped out of the trees. They wore silver armor. Irenia knew them by the way they moved. Graceful, fast, quiet. Corwin stood beside her. "We knew this would come." "Stay calm," Irenia whispered. "Let me speak to them first." She stepped forward. "You do not belong here," one of the elves said. "This is my home now," she replied. "The king demands your return." "I refuse," she said. "I have chosen my life." The elf's hand moved to his blade. "Then we will take you by force." Before he could step forward, villagers came from behind. They held axes, pitchforks, and torches. They did not look like warriors, but they stood tall. "You'll have to go through us," the elder said. The elves looked at each other. They were trained, but they were outnumbered. And this was not a battlefield. It was a village full of people who stood together. The lead elf's eyes met Irenia's. "This is not over." Then, slowly, the elves turned and disappeared into the forest. Corwin stepped to Irenia's side. "They'll be back." "Yes," she said. "But now they know. We won't be easy to take." That night, Irenia stood under the stars, the villagers safe, the house warm, and Corwin beside her. She had run from the palace, but she had not run from who she was. She was still the elf princess, but now she was something more. Days passed, and no more elves came. The village returned to its quiet rhythm, but Erinya knew it was only silence before the storm. Her father would not give up so easily. He had always been proud and strict. If he had sent scouts, it meant he was preparing something bigger. Corwin noticed her worry. He watched her eyes, her silence, the way her fingers touched the sword even during calm moments. "You're thinking about him," he said one morning. "Yes," Erinya answered. "He will come, with more soldiers, maybe even lead them himself. Then we need a plan." Erinya looked at the forest in the distance. "We don't have enough weapons, and the villagers are brave, but they are not trained." Corwin nodded. "But they're not alone." That same day, Corwin rode to the nearby town. He spoke to traders, hunters, even old soldiers who had once fought in border wars. He told them of a village that might face danger. Some laughed, but others listened. A few promised to come. Meanwhile, Erinya trained the villagers. She showed them how to hold a blade, how to watch for signs in the woods, how to move quietly at night. Thaler had taught her well, and now she passed that knowledge to people who had never held a sword before. Children watched from behind fences. Mothers cooked food for those training. The whole village moved like one strong heart. On the fourth night, help arrived. 3 hunters from the town brought bows and arrows. An old soldier came with a long spear and sharp eyes, and behind them, Fiddler appeared, quiet and calm as always. Erinya ran to him. "You came." He nodded. "I had to see if your heart still led you true." "It does," she said. "Then I will fight beside you." Together, they prepared for what was coming. Traps were set in the woods. Guards watched day and night. Erinya and Thaler mapped out plans, paths, signals, and escape routes. Then one evening, the sky turned red with sunset, and horns sounded in the distance. They came. An elven force, small but strong, moved through the trees. Their silver armor glinted under the fading sun. They were silent, fast, and deadly. Corwin stood with the villagers at the edge of the village. Erinya walked forward to meet the lead rider. It was not her father, but her cousin, Prince Inar, the one she had been promised to marry. "Erinya," he said coldly, "you are to return with us." "I will not," she replied. "You shame your family, your kingdom. Then let it be shame. But I choose my path." Inar lifted his hand. Soldiers stepped forward, and Erinya drew her sword. "Then we fight," she said. The battle for her freedom was about to begin. The forest exploded with sound. Arrows flew through the air, swords clashed, and battle cries echoed under the trees. The villagers, Corwin, Thaler, and the others fought with everything they had. Erinya moved like wind and fire. Her silver armor shone under the moonlight as she defended the village. Every strike from her blade was strong and sure. She fought not for a throne, but for a life she had chosen. Corwin stayed close to the villagers, helping the weaker ones hold their ground. He used his hammer like a weapon, knocking down armored elves with strength and heart. He had never been trained for battle, but love gave him courage. Thaler moved like a shadow, quick and quiet. He protected Erenya's back, cutting down enemies who came too close. He didn't speak, but his eyes said everything. He believed in her. Prince Inar fought with skill and pride. He aimed for Erinya, pushing through the crowd. "You were born for the throne," he shouted, swinging his sword. "No," Erinya shouted back. "I was born to choose." Their blades met with sparks. Each swing held years of history. Cousins, once close, now stood on opposite sides of a line drawn by tradition and love. Inar was strong, but Erinya was stronger. She knew who she was now. With one final move, she knocked his sword from his hand. He fell to one knee, breathing hard. "End it," he said. She pointed her sword at him, but did not strike. "Go back," she said. "Tell the king I am not his to command. I am not yours to claim." Inar looked at her, stunned. Then, slowly, he stood and nodded. He gave a signal to the remaining soldiers. They retreated. The villagers cheered. The battle was over. Arenya dropped her sword and ran to Corwin. He was bruised and tired, but alive. They held each other, breathing in the air of freedom. The elder came forward, her hands shaking. "You saved us." Arenya shook her head. "We saved each other." Feller stood nearby, silent as always. Then, for the first time, he smiled. "You are not just a princess anymore. You are a leader." Arenya looked around at the village, at the people who had stood with her, and at Corwin. "I don't need a crown," she said. "I have everything I need." The sun rose over the village, warm and golden. The people rebuilt what was broken. They planted new seeds. They sang songs of courage and hope. And in a small house near the river, Arenya and Corwin built a life. No throne, no court, no royal walls. Just love, just freedom, and a story that would be told for generations.